The Knight of Swords, the Four of Swords, and then the Ten of Wands. Oh boy. All right, so definitely here with the Four of Wands being the overall, we could be talking about needing to get to a place of stability within the relationship. But this, in this deck in particular here, the Four of Wands is about somebody who is confessing to another person about how they feel in order to get to a place of stability. We could be talking about the issue being between the two of you on whether or not to live together or, you know, to move out. I mean, it could be about living situations here, but ultimately it's to get to a place of celebration and happiness and stability. Now, the way that you come into this with the Emperor, I'm going to be honest with you. I feel like you're going to have to let go of a little bit of control here. And it has to do with some difficult things. But if you're dealing with a person who is not able to kind of like let go of what they need to release, then, you know, for you, it's a choice of, well, I'm not going to deal with that conflict. That's not what I want out of this situation, or that's not what I want out of you. Like, I feel like the Emperor is you being a little bit stubborn and set in your ways and your way of thinking, especially with that Six of Swords. But it's because the other person is having a hard time letting go of something, because with the Two of Pentacles, they're still trying to figure it out, is what I feel like. For you, there's nothing left to figure out. It's time to move on from that, to move on from the conflict, the difficulties, you know, but you're going to have to change your point of view or your way of thinking, because I think that that is what's going to help the other person here kind of, you know, let go of this and still... They need to stop. Like, I feel like I want to tell them, look, you need to just stop doing this. There's no point in keeping that into play, because it really has nothing to do with the relationship anymore, especially from your perspective. Like, why is it that you're still bringing this up almost? But it's not a bad thing. I think it's just that they're trying to figure it out. So the reason why they may still be bringing up something that you may feel like they should have let go of is because they need some kind of understanding. That, or they're just trying to figure out their own lives. And definitely, right, like it could be like trying to figure things out in order to get to a place where, you know, you guys get to live together, which is possible. But this is really about the way that you're thinking and needing to change that kind of point of view. And, you know, I almost feel like, you know, and that goes both ways. Like, I feel like this person shouldn't be hanging on to this anymore, trying to figure it out or bring it up anymore, you know? But like I said, it's not because of ill intention, but they need to understand something almost. Now, with the King of Swords, I feel like that is kind of how they're looking at you, because you're showing the Ace of Swords. This is, look, here is the truth. Here is the truth of how I feel about the conflict. How, you know, I think about what is happening in terms of this relationship. I want to get to a place of stability. They may be seeing you as the one who is giving clarity and understanding to what they're having a hard time dealing with. Now, the problem is with the Ten of Wands underneath that, though, you know, I feel like they're still carrying some baggage that is unnecessary. Now, it may be that they're looking at you as the person who is being a little bit too harsh with them and not being emotionally supportive. But I think it's because you're getting to a point where there's no point in dealing with this anymore. You know, accept the truth for what it is. You know, but we're still looking at the Four of Wands, trying to build something here. And I think that what happens is you get to a point where you get a little bit harsh, you get a little bit blunt. You know, I don't think that you're going to say anything that you regret, but I also feel like it's something that you need to say to this person. You know, like I almost feel like some of you are looking at them like they're looking at things the wrong way and they're not understanding your perspective. And you're getting to the breaking point where it's like, fine, you know, I'm going to force feed it to you, you know, which would be the Knight of Swords here. Now, that may cause like a break in communication or the two of you not talking anymore. And they are carrying that around with them, But then that's not just you, or not just them, it's you too, though. But it's their baggage, their issues that they can't figure out or deal with. Wow, Sag. But I get the feeling that from you, you're wanting to move on. You're wanting to move on. You're wanting them to see that and see things clearly. But if they're not willing to, kind of accept the truth, right? Like, I worry that the way that they're looking at you is like, oh, well, everything is from your point of view, but you're not seeing mine. But that's not fair. I don't think it's fair on either side. I just feel like there's this breakdown in understanding and communication. And then the Two of Swords. I don't know that, if they're not willing to kind of like open up and see a different perspective or be open and honest with you about the way that they're thinking, I don't know that you really want to get involved in this again. I think that you may think it's time to take a break. So, with Strength and the Eight of Pentacles, the strength to say what needs to be said. And yeah, it may be a little bit forceful, but like I said, I feel like you're being pushed to that point. With the Eight of Pentacles, definitely with the Ten of Wands, they're still trying to work some shit out here. And you may be trying to get them to see logic and reason, absolutely. And there may be some things that they need to work out. And I think that you're trying to, keep yourself in balance, keep yourself in check, not being, out of control. But like I said, I feel like you get forced to this place where you just need to like come out and say what you need to say. With the Ten of Pentacles, they're working on, security and stability here. And definitely trying to get to the end of, whatever burdens they're carrying. Now, it may be that they need to work on some family situations here with the Ten of Pentacles, which is possible. And I think that you're okay. Like, I get that. I understand that. I'm chill. I'm waiting. But you need to work on that and figure that out. But there may be some things that they are keeping from you that is weighing on them in regards to, money or family issues, which is possible here. And I don't feel like they're willing to talk to you about it. And for you, that's fine. I almost feel like you're like, fine, then let's just take a break for a minute here. Because clearly there's a huge disconnect when it comes to communication. Whatever the circumstances are here, and whatever it is that they need to work on, with the Ten of Wands and looking at the Seven of Swords, it's like they're not willing to kind of deal with this. Now, you may be also dealing with somebody who's trying to sneak away from a situation that they're not dealing with. And I think that you know about it. And I think that for you, it's like, I don't know if I want to be involved in that. You need to figure that out. That's on you. Like, I feel like you're at this point where it's like, there's nothing that I can really do to help you. Here is how I feel about it. You need to move on from this. We need to move on from this difficulty. Or it could be you, right? But, I still get the perspective here that for you, there's no point. Like, there's no point in continuing to deal with this situation. You need to figure it out. But don't keep bringing up things from the past. Like, I'm not being, the supportive one when you're the one that needs to figure this out if you want to get to this place of stability, right? I don't think that this relationship is over with. I do think that for a lot of you, you're going to end up taking a break here and there is going to be a cutoff in communication. So coming into this, the Six of Swords, this is about, like, for me, like bridging the distance between you and another person, or at least trying to. The problem is the Lovers. This one is not necessarily the best card to get here with this deck. It's not the worst by any means, but what I don't like is you're talking about somebody who cannot make the choice between two people, or needing to make a choice between following temptation or getting involved with a relationship that would carry them through the long term. That's how I see that, right? Now, is it because you can't bridge the distance with a specific person, which is possible? I almost feel like this is either you or the person that you're dealing with here. It's almost like they can't make a choice between you and someone else. Now, with the Hangman, I do feel like this is you kind of waiting on them to kind of figure it out. If they can't, bridge the gap where they're needing to here with the Six of Swords, you know, are you still kind of hanging in there and waiting for them to say something to you, you know? Now, with the Two of Pentacles, this is somebody who is like unsure. They're almost embarrassed, you know, unsure on whether or not, you know, they should approach another person. But the thing is you're waiting on them to do this, but they may be embarrassed because of what they did in the past, which is very possible here. Like they may feel like they don't have the right to approach you because they couldn't figure their shit out between you and another person. But we're still looking at a true love situation for you, which may be why, you know, you still are kind of hanging in there. Now, with the Six of Wands, somebody is definitely putting themselves out there. With the Seven of Wands, it doesn't look bad. It looks like once they get over themselves or get over what may have been wrong in the past, it's like they put themselves out there for you. But with the Seven of Wands, I feel like that's you. I feel like that's you getting over whatever doubts you had surrounding this person. Once they step up, once they get over themselves, get over the wrongs of the past, right? If I could just spit it out. And then you have, okay, the Page of Pentacles. What I worry about here is that, you know, there's still some bitterness. I worry that some of you are forcing yourselves to overcome fears and doubts surrounding this person. Because the Page of Pentacles would suggest that this is a souring of a relationship, right? So this would suggest that somebody is still a little bit bitter about something, but yet they're still wanting to be involved with this person. But you run the risk of ruining the relationship, right? So now with the King of Cups, you know, I mean, it would make sense that it would be him. Now, for some of you, right, this may be the person you're dealing with. Male, female, water, don't care. But this is about, you know, somebody who's very loving and very romantic. But there may be romantic feelings involving another person that they just can't, like, close the gap with. You know, and I feel like they come back and kind of apologize to you, but I think that there's a little bit of bitterness as far as, you know, you being the second choice. I mean, honestly, that's what that looks like to me. You know, but I do think that there is at least some sincerity on their part in terms of, you know, apologizing for what may have happened. Do you accept the apology though? You know, and I think that, you know, some of you may force yourself to do this, you know, but I still think that some of you are going to be a little bit bitter. And I would be careful with that because, like I said, it could potentially ruin the relationship, right? Now, like I said, we could flip this around and it could be Sagittarius that's doing this, but I don't feel like that's the case. I feel like this is about the other person. The other person that couldn't figure it out. And then the Ten of Cups, and that may be where the deception is coming through here. Somebody is not being very open. But another person may not be seeing it and may think that despite the fact that there is, you know, at least some disconnect between the two of you, that everything's okay, and really it's not for somebody. The King of Wands, you know, I honestly feel like this is you. I think that you are the loving one, that you want to be there for this person. I feel like, you know, you're the one that is kind of like comforting them almost, because that's, I kind of see that with him. Now, with the Eight of Cups, I feel like you're trying to be there for this person, but they're like, you know, still there with you. But then at the same time, it's like, back off a little bit. Just give me a minute, right? Now, coming out of that though, and again, right, like you can flip the script on this. This could be the person that you're dealing with. You know, male, female, fire, doesn't matter to me. But what I see being projected out is somebody who is trying to be there, to be caring, to be loving, to be supportive and passionate. But somebody is like, you know, just back off a minute. With the Ace of Wands, this is definitely a new beginning, right? And it's about getting over the past, you know, somebody trying to get over the past here. There's definitely passionate new beginning here. You know, in some cases it shows fertility, but I don't think that that's it. Now, with Justice, what I feel like is happening here is that you may feel like because there's a new start with this person, or what feels like a new beginning, where before they may have been like kind of pushing you away, I think that things are corrected, but they're not. Because justice would suggest that here's this new beginning. That must mean things are fair and balanced, but I don't think that it is because of the way you come out on this. Somebody is not being open and honest about how they feel and what they're thinking. When you're looking at the Seven of Swords, you're talking about two people who can't connect. They're not speaking, they're not physically connecting, and the truth is right there. Somebody just needs to say it. But with the Ten of Cups, somebody's not seeing that. They may think that everything is okay. And what I worry about is that you're the one who thinks that everything's okay, but you're dealing with somebody who is not telling you something. That they may not be okay, right? Or they're not as happy as you may think that they are. And then the Eight of Wands. All right. So with the Hermit, this may be the other person wishing for something more in the relationship, right? Or this is you. Wishing that things were different, wishing that there was that kind of connection, right? And you kind of taking a time out to think about that, especially if you're not getting it from the other person or, the other way around. Now, with the Seven of Cups here, you're talking about fantasizing about what is going to happen later on, especially if you're looking at a new beginning, right? Thinking that everything is fair and everything is corrected, or at least you're trying to do that for this person. And I think that you're thinking about how things will be, but I don't think that that's how it turns out. Now, with the Eight of Wands, the reason why there may be this disconnect is because somebody is not wanting things to move too quickly. Because with the Eight of Wands, I look at the ladder and I think of somebody who is like, let's get there now. Let's get there. And I think that some of you think that you're there, but somebody else is not really wanting that. With the Eight of Wands, if I had to give you advice, it's just, enjoy the moments that you have together. Yes, don't try to force anything. But I don't think that you're the one here that needs to open up. I think that the other person needs to say something instead of acting like everything is okay when it's not. And again, I say that because of deception coming through, right? And it doesn't have to be anything bad. It's not like they're cheating or that they're, doing anything that they're not supposed to. It may just be something that, they're thinking about or dealing with on an emotional level that they're not opening up to you about. But be careful about, being in a place where you think everything is okay when really it's not.